Amara Ellis, a 14-year-old black girl, is asked to give up her VIP seat in first class for no reason other than a white passenger's demand. The crew, unchallenged, tells her to move, their silence louder than words. But when Amara reveals her last name, everything changes. What happens next will make you rethink the real meaning of power, privilege, and justice. Hit like and subscribe to real-life stories new for more eye-opening moments like this. The tension in the first-class cabin was palpable, the kind of stillness that hangs heavy in the air, thick with the weight of unspoken judgments. Amara Ellis, a 14-year-old girl, sat calmly in seat 1A, her posture poised, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She wasn't intimidated by the luxury of her surroundings. She belonged here. But then the storm arrived. Evelyn Street Clare, tall and impeccably dressed, cut through the cabin like a knife, her eyes fixed on Amara, narrowing with disbelief. Without hesitation, she approached, her voice rising above the soft hum of the plane. "Excuse me, that's my seat," she snapped, pointing to the leather chair Amara was occupying. Amara's response was calm, steady, "This is my seat, 1A." Evelyn's expression soured, her lips curling into a sneer. "That can't be right," she muttered, glancing at Amara's boarding pass with a dismissive look. "You must be mistaken." The passengers around them shifted in their seats, some uncomfortable, some too polite to say anything. Evelyn's voice grew louder, dripping with disdain. "Maybe you've been upgraded. Or maybe you're just pretending to belong here," she said, as though Amara's presence in first class was some sort of mistake. Amara, with the grace her father had instilled in her, held her ground. She didn't flinch, didn't react to the insult. Evelyn was used to getting what she wanted, to people bending the rules to please her. But Amara wasn't one of those people. The flight attendant, Jacqueline Rivers, approached, her polished smile faltering as she took in the scene. "Mrs. Street Clare, seat 1A is assigned to Miss Amara Ellis today," she said, voice professional. But there was an undercurrent of hesitation. She knew what she was walking into. Evelyn's gaze turned venomous. "How quaint," she sneered. "Daddy must have paid extra for her to play princess." The cabin was silent, tension thickening the air. Amara felt every eye on her, but she didn't move. She wouldn't let anyone make her feel small. Jacqueline, sensing the uncomfortable silence, offered Evelyn an alternative, seat 2A, just one row back, still in first class. "You'll still have full VIP amenities," she said with a strange smile. But Evelyn wasn't satisfied. She wasn't going to move quietly. "I'm not sitting in the back," she said, her voice dripping with entitlement as she made her way to 2A. Before she moved, however, she leaned in close to Amara, whispering just loud enough for her to hear, "Enjoy it while you can, sweetheart. Not everyone can fake their way into luxury." Amara's grip tightened around the safety card in her lap, but she didn't respond. She wasn't there to argue. She was there to stay. The flight continued, but the unease in the cabin never quite dissipated. Passengers whispered to each other, some stealing glances at Amara, others quietly nodding at Evelyn. The silence of complicity was louder than any confrontation. No one stood up. No one intervened. But that silence would soon be shattered. Jacqueline Rivers reappeared, walking briskly toward Evelyn in seat 2A. She leaned in, her voice low but enough for everyone nearby to hear. "We've contacted the ground team. They're reviewing the records. There might have been a mistake in the system, but rest assured, we'll make this right." Evelyn's face twisted with a smug satisfaction. "Finally," she muttered under her breath. "Someone's actually listening to me." Amara, sitting silently in her seat, felt the weight of every glance. She could hear Evelyn speaking louder now, throwing her weight around. "Can you imagine a child in 1A?" she said, making sure everyone could hear. "It's ridiculous. First class isn't just about paying for the ticket. It's about belonging, knowing your place." A ripple of discomfort spread through the cabin. Some passengers exchanged uncomfortable glances, but still no one spoke. No one defended Amara. And then, just when it seemed like the entire plane was holding its breath in anticipation of Evelyn's next move, the intercom came to life. "Miss Amara Ellis, please come to the front of the aircraft." Everyone froze. The entire cabin went silent. Evelyn's head snapped up, her eyes narrowing. "What is this? What's happening?" she whispered to no one in particular. Amara stood, her movement slow and deliberate. She didn't look at Evelyn. She didn't need to. She walked down the aisle with purpose, the eyes of the passengers following her, some with confusion, others with curiosity. She wasn't just walking to the front of the plane. She was walking toward something much bigger. At the front, Captain Reynolds waited, his gaze steady. "Miss Ellis, there's been a mistake with the seating. We've reviewed your boarding pass and confirmed your executive status," he said without a hint of doubt. Amara didn't say a word. Instead, she pulled out a sleek, platinum-edged card from her blazer. "Xavier Ellis, co-founder of Skylux Airlines," she said, handing it to him without hesitation. Captain Reynolds didn't need to ask any more questions. He didn't need to verify anything further. The name Ellis spoke for itself. He turned toward the intercom and issued a command that rippled through the cabin like a shockwave. "Effective immediately, Miss Amara Ellis is to be treated with full executive priority and returned to seat 1A. All further inquiries are to cease. This is a top clearance order." The atmosphere in the cabin shifted. The passengers' murmurs became louder, filled with shock and disbelief. Evelyn's face drained of color. Her smug demeanor vanished as she realized what had just happened. The power she thought she held was gone in an instant. Amara walked back down the aisle, her stride unwavering. As she passed Evelyn, she didn't look at her. She didn't need to. She had already won. She returned to her seat in 1A with the same calm confidence she had always carried. But now, it was different. This time, the entire cabin was watching, their silence heavy with realization. Evelyn sat in her seat, stunned, unable to process the shift in power. But the consequences were far from over. As the flight continued, the crew members exchanged uneasy glances. Moments later, the intercom buzzed again, this time with the voice of Robert Vance, the senior corporate liaison. "Mrs. Evelyn Street Clare," his voice echoed, calm but firm. "Effective immediately, you are issued a no-fly order across all Skylux Airlines flights, effective until further review. Your verbal abuse and misuse of loyalty status to target a minor passenger have violated multiple behavioral clauses. This documentation will be submitted to civil aviation authorities upon landing." Evelyn's face twisted in humiliation. She could hardly believe what was happening. This wasn't just about a seat. It was about how she had used her influence to try and humiliate someone else. And now, it had backfired. The ripple effect was immediate. The passengers, once silent and complicit, now began to speak. One woman, sitting in the aisle across from Amara, stood up and said, "I should have said something earlier. I saw it. I watched it happen. And I stayed quiet." A man nearby nodded. "I didn't say anything either, but this is wrong. This girl stood her ground with more grace than any of us." The silence in the cabin had shifted from uncomfortable to regretful. Evelyn, the woman who had tried to dismiss Amara as a child, now found herself facing the harshest consequences. She wasn't just kicked out of 1A. Her reputation, her privileges, everything she had taken for granted, was slipping away. And at the heart of it all was Amara, who, through grace and resilience, had shown everyone that true dignity is not about money, status, or power. It's about standing firm in who you are, no matter who tries to push you aside. When the plane landed, the aftermath was clear. Evelyn's name would be remembered not for her wealth or her connections, but for the humiliation she had brought upon herself. The consequences had come swiftly and decisively. Amara Ellis, on the other hand, would be remembered as the girl who took her seat, not because of who her father was, but because she knew she deserved it just as much as anyone else. In the end, Amara's quiet strength wasn't just about winning a seat. It was about showing everyone that dignity isn't something you can buy or claim through power. It's something you earn by standing your ground, even when the world tells you not to. Evelyn learned that the hard way. And so did the passengers who watched her crumble. But the real question is, how often do we let silence speak louder than our actions? How many times do we stay quiet in the face of injustice, hoping someone else will speak up? This story isn't just a reminder about privilege and power. It's a wake-up call for all of us. What are we willing to let slide? And when do we finally say enough? If you believe in standing up for what's right, make sure to subscribe to Real Life Stories New for more powerful moments like this. Now think about it, when was the last time you took a stand? Share your thoughts with us, and let's keep this conversation going.